And then I left my job because I want to be a full-time real estate investor, flip homes and whatnot. And after 6 months, it wasn't really going as well as I'd hoped.
What would you say that in terms of income mix would it be?
Even with like 1 million followers, I get like nothing on TikTok. I get like $5 on Instagram. People don't like buying in California, but if you own 10 properties here, you can cry with your like $100 bills that, I have, you can do anything you want.
Because nobody wants to pick their brains, but everyone will be a guest on a podcast.
You can do anything you want as long as your why is powerful enough. So I did that for 3 years and then left 2 years ago, actually on October 5th. So my 2 years of no more work is coming up pretty soon.
So today I'm sitting down with Sean Pan, who I've known for a few years, and he went from defense engineering to hard money lending to now content creator, and is now financially free, living his best life, and figuring out what's next. And so he's going to talk, actually, I guess he's talking to me about how I can live my best life, and that's all coming up next. Thanks for jumping on the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I haven't been in a live studio like ever.
Well, good thing it's not a live studio, because this is just my kitchen table.
I haven't been in an actual studio. I mean, most of our podcasts that we had in the last few years have all been just online. It feels very impersonal. So This is the first time to actually talk to somebody face to face.
See? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And the last time that you were on the show was, I don't know, this is a few years ago.
Yeah, it must be. I don't know.
And we were talking with a few other investors about social media and real estate investing. And then immediately after that, I'd say like a couple weeks later, you just like popped off and went crazy.
Oh, I guess so.
Let's just say it's because of the show, okay?
Yeah, there you go. There you
go. But tell me, for the audience who doesn't already know, I'm sure a lot of people already know who Sean is, but for those who don't, who is Sean Pan?
Cool. So what's up, guys? My name is Sean. My handle is Sean Loves Real Estate, mostly because I love real estate, and basically it got me to where I am today. I post on social media, mostly short-form content. Right now, my social handles have about over 1 million on like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So blessed to have that. And for the past 10 months, I've been traveling around the world with my wife. And I landed back in the States like 3 days ago. Saw him at a meetup yesterday, and he invited me on the show. So happy to be here.
There you go. So real fast. Okay, so I want to break down, obviously, like journey to financial freedom, what you thought that looked like, what that actually looks like now, and then basically how can someone do that? Obviously, there's Sean Loves Real Estate. So I'm assuming that real estate's a portion of it, although I am curious on like the marketing and social media side, how much that also is a mix and that has that and how that's played. So how about run me through exactly, at least in this current stage, what does financial freedom, what's that FIRE look like?
Okay, so right now, most of our passive income is from the real estate.
Okay.
Most of our real estate is long-term rentals. We do have 3 short-term rentals. 2 are managed by someone else. 1 is here in the Bay Area that we manage ourselves with like my family. The social media, which is like our AdSense from all of our videos and stuff. Sometimes we have sponsorship deals, and sometimes we also have core sales from our own products and whatnot. That contributes to our like fund money. So from there, we're able to like do whatever we want without thinking like, oh, I'm spending too much money. I'm dipping in my savings. But because I've been gone for 10 months, not gonna lie, that number's dropped quite a bit.
Okay.
So for me to not worry about like paying my bills or just having a baseline of living, that's all from the real estate.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but
totally. Okay. Well, then how about this? Like break it down to me. I mean, you were living in the Bay Area and you had was it a tech job at the time?
I was working in defense, so I was making satellites for the government.
Okay. And then you moved into hard money lending.
And then I left my job because I want to be a full-time real estate investor, flip homes and whatnot. And after 6 months, it wasn't really going as well as I'd hoped. So luckily, a really good friend of mine was like, hey, do you want to work with us as a hard money lender? Because at the time, I was doing my own podcast. I had my own YouTube channel and whatnot. And I was already referring deals to her. So she's like, why don't you just work with us and you can yada, yada. And so I became a hard money lender for 3 years. And that was a very interesting time. I consider it like partial financial freedom because I was working, yes, but my job was to make YouTube videos and host meetup groups, talk to my friends, and give them money for their deals. So I didn't feel too bad. And I was making more money in that job than my full-time job in defense. It's pretty insane.
Interesting.
Yeah. But the stress is kind of high, though. You have to deal with a lot of personalities.
Yeah.
And sometimes you disappoint your friends, and also doesn't feel good, too. Yeah. But yeah, so I did that for 3 years, and then left 2 years ago, actually on October 5th. So my 2 years of no more work is coming up pretty soon.
Okay, and then what was, again for context, you can share as much as you want to share.
Yeah.
For example, living in the Bay Area as a hard money lender and doing all of that, what was kind of the average salary that you were able to get for that job?
hard money lender or a defense contractor?
How about both?
So the base salary as a defense contractor, I didn't even break 90K.
Okay.
I mean, I say that like, oh my God, 90K is too low. But in the Bay Area, it's not that high. The thing is with that particular job, I did get some extra bonuses because I technically moved from Los Angeles. So there's some extra, money that was given that I was able to use to then buy other things. But in the Bay Area, I also was house hacking. So I had my home here in Milpitas, and I rented out all the rooms to my friends. So I basically had zero cost of living here.
Okay.
While I was able to make money, and then I just invested in all that stuff. And then as a hard money lender, that job is mostly commission based. So I did have a base salary around 50K.
Okay.
But then we were getting, I don't know if I can talk about the exact numbers, because hey, but I was getting paid a commission based on how much of the loans I was doing. So if I did, like $5 million in loans, I would get X amount of money.
Okay.
And that money ended up being a lot more than my base salary because as a defense contractor, because you can do a lot more volume.
Okay.
Yes.
And so the fire for you initially, right? Because there's levels to the game.
Yeah.
And so the initial level for you was just to cover your baseline expenses. And obviously, if you house hacked a house, was your rent then also for free at that point?
I owned the house.
You owned it, but then
the
you didn't have to. Did you have enough roommates to cover the entire mortgage?
Yes. But, with a little star there. So I still had to pay for property taxes. Utilities were still, there. Over time, as years went by, I increased the rents for my roommates to a point where my personal expenses were basically like utilities.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that. Like nowadays, because we rent out property out as an Airbnb, it covers for everything. So that one pays for itself.
Yeah, but if you were to, but you house hacked and a couple $100 a month versus even just if you rented the room, I'm sure you're renting it for like $1,200 or something like that, just for the room itself.
I was not.
More.
I'm a very good landlord. These are my homies. It was $600 a month.
Oh, good.
Yeah, at first. Not a little bit, but yeah, $600 a month.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then. But yes, comparatively, if you were to rent a room, at least it'd probably be around anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500, I'd imagine, in Silicon Valley.
I mean, some of my friends who also moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area rented their own place. They want to be a little bit more bougie, but it was like $2,000 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's $24,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I paid zero, and then I could invest that money instead.
And so you took all that spread, and then for you, what then was the catalyst of like, great, I'm making decent money as a hard money lender. I'm also now, quote unquote, living for free. Let's just call it basically there. There's, of course, probably $1,000 in expenses at least, but you were very mindful of that. What gave you the confidence to also just say, okay, cool, I don't want to be a hard money lender anymore?
Okay, well, let's put some more context into it.
Okay.
By the time I stopped working as a hard money lender, I already had 1 million followers for TikTok and Instagram and my YouTube. Well, at the time, YouTube was still pretty small, but my wife Sharon is also in social media as well, and she does a lot better than I do.
Okay.
Believe it or not, she does a lot better than I do. And just together, we were like, we don't really need full-time jobs. The money is great. Like, don't get me wrong. No matter how much money you make, it's always cool to make more.
Yeah.
It's weird to say, but I don't know. It just feels like the sacrifice to make more money just wasn't worth it. Like if you have to be on sales calls, if I have to worry about people calling, like for example, I got married in March of 2022. I was still a hard money lender back then. I loved my job. I love to talk to my clients, but sometimes things don't go well in the business. Like sometimes their loans don't go through, something happens. And so people get nervous and they call me the lender, like, hey, what's going on with my loan? So people called me on my wedding day and I'm trying to be a good guy and I know these people. So I'm like, hey, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I think about it, like, why am I taking a phone call on my wedding day? That's really dumb. Or like I'd be traveling in Europe, but I can't really have a good time because I know in the back of my head that someone might ping me at like 12 a.m. in Europe time because that's only like 3 p.m. here. So it makes just your overall life not as enjoyable. So then if I don't need the money, why make the sacrifice? Why make the sacrifice for it? So then I just
totally
felt like it was a good time to go. Also, to be fair too, in 2022, that's when the rates went up a lot.
Yeah.
So I saw that the market was going to be a lot harder. That, I don't know, our previous clients would be more mad that we're giving them rates at like 9% or 10%. Instead back then it was 8%. Or like loans would be delayed, all this other stuff. And I figured, again, I didn't need the stress, so I was able to bounce.
Totally. I mean, but there's a million different there's plan A, plan B, plan C. You still had another income stream versus the rental properties or whether it be through social media.
Yeah, tons of income streams. So cutting one, it was okay for us.
So then today, what are the income streams? Like if you were to list them out?
I mean, we have properties, right? That's, again, the most stable baseline ones. And again, that differentiates us from most of our content creator friends who, again, they make a lot of money, but they don't have like assets. So once they stop posting, they're done, right? They live off of sponsorships. They live off of potential. Oh, some of them don't even have their own things to sell. I think that's a big problem too. Like, you need to have your own product, whether it be, again, as a hard money lender, you have loans to sell, or for us, we have educational products to sell. You need that because you can't really live off AdSense. It's really, really, really low.
On a percentage basis, then, what would you say that in terms of income mix would it be?
I'm gonna be real with you, man. My numbers are really bad because I've been out for 10 months.
If you had to guess.
And again, it varies a lot depending on how your audience is. But usually it's like, let's say from the content side itself, okay, maybe 40% would be from sponsorships, another 40% would be from your own products.
Okay.
And then 20% would be the miscellaneous stuff. So
Yeah.
AdSense or whatever else comes your way.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's also affiliates too. So, and these breakdowns change a lot depend on how you market yourself too. Right. So that's just kind of it for us. And then every year's percentages change too.
Okay.
So again, sorry for the vague answer.
No, that's
these
okay.
numbers, because you're not on a salary, right? It's not so easy to say, oh, I make this much. Every month is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of just breaks down every which way. But usually AdSense is very low, and then sponsorships, and then like your own courses.
Okay.
So
And then for you, on levels of fire, run me through of, all right, I wanted to have this much saved up to feel confident of like, okay, I don't need to work again. What's the next level?
You know what's weird? Like I never felt like it was a net worth number. Like I need this much saved up.
Okay.
Because I thought about it like, let's say I have $100 million or $1 billion. Okay, well, in order to actually use that money, I have to probably sell some assets. But I don't like selling. That's my nature. Like I really hate selling things unless I have to. So for me, it was always more like a cash flow number. Like how much money do I need passively before I can leave?
Okay.
So for me, the baseline number was always $10,000. Like if I can make $10,000 a month, then I can leave because that's how much I was making at my full-time job anyway.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it. That's a pretty arbitrary number. I think a lot of people think 10K too. They just pick it out of nowhere and say 10K. As long as you can live your lifestyle without having any kind of like guilt or feeling like, oh, I need more money for next month, then yeah, you're actually pretty good. You can leave. Especially if your cost of living is really low. So right now it's just me and my wife. We don't have kids. Our houses are basically covered from other houses. My biggest expense is food.
Okay.
We go out like all the time. Like I rarely cook. That's it. I mean,
You guys have been traveling for the last 10 months.
Yeah, I don't ball out, right?
Yeah,
you know
okay.
me, like you see my shirt here, I buy it for $3, right? I'd say $3 at Primark. I love that store. So I don't need much to survive. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically, like my cost of living is very low.
Okay.
FIRE to me just means that I don't need to worry about my income.
Okay.
I don't need to worry about my expenses. I'm good. I
Yeah.
have a lot saved. If I need to pull, I can pull it, but I'm not going to. If I can pay my taxes, I can pay my cost of living, I'm good to go.
Okay. And then at this point, if you said that you would do it all over again and someone wants to, like, I want to end up in Sean's shoes, whether it be on the real estate or the marketing side, which one do you think actually makes more money and which was more plausible and possible for somebody?
It's a good question. And I get this one a lot, by the way. Here's the thing. It's not one or the other, right? And again, real estate in its core is just another investing vehicle. So people say, oh, you invest in real estate? Well, my stock market goes blah, blah. I'm like, cool. I also own stocks. I own a lot of stocks, actually.
Yeah.
So you need a mix of everything. Real estate, though, I like a lot because I think it's one of the best ways for the average regular person, right, who has no skills
Yeah.
to be successful and to be able to like leave their full-time job. And it's kind of like forced savings too, right? Like you buy a property, you're forced to continue to contribute to the payoff of the mortgage. And by holding on to this asset, and because it's so hard to like buy and sell it, right? Because you have to pay all these closing costs, you are unwittingly owning a piece of property that grows in value, that's giving you cash flow every month. That's amazing, That's considered a business too.
Yeah.
But I like that. I can be very lazy and look back and say, oh, cool, we made an extra like $300K in net worth because all of our properties appreciate in value.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one side of the story. The other side is, hey, if you want to like get big fast, you do need to start your own business. Some business, right? A side hustle. For real estate investing, I was doing other things. Like I did Amazon FBA, so I was buying and selling products. I tried to do a small startup with my friends. Didn't go anywhere. I flipped houses. I made a lot of money. I also lost money. right? But I think by just doing businesses, it toughens your skin a lot. You learn how to make money outside of a full-time job. And then you can parlay that money into other investments.
Yeah.
So again, that's the thing. Like right now, a lot of my content creator friends are doing very, very well with their business, but they don't buy assets because they think the money's always going to be there from their business, but it's not. Things change. Whereas for your assets, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And it grows and compounds on itself. You look back and you make another 100,000. Cool. You lose 100,000 from a market crash. It doesn't affect you because you didn't use that money anyway.
Yeah.
That's where we are now. Very strange place.
So it sounds like if you're the average person, for anybody, all like you just obviously learn how to run the numbers, find a market, et cetera, do all the education side, maybe even do a course or two. And then from there, anybody can buy a property. And if you wait long enough and you have the savings to back things up when things go awry, you can make money. But if you want to accelerate, you have to be a lot more active, whether it be a business, content, et cetera.
Yeah. Like basically you can't rely, most people can't rely on their W-2s to get them to where they want to be. Maybe unless you are in a place where your W-2 pays you a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
That you can parlay some of that to whatever. But most people out there, their job barely pays for their own like living, their own consumption. So whatever they make, they consume. That's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to be able to parlay money to investing.
Totally. I mean, it's weird. I feel like for me, I've been in the Bay Area for the last 5 years, so it's this weird little bubble where that's not the case. People here have extra cash sitting, but for the rest of the country, it's not like that.
Yep.
And it's, I don't know. It's interesting. Okay. So in the last 10 months, as you've now enjoyed financial freedom and all of this, what's been kind of the most interesting either event or place you've traveled to or like learning that you've had?
Okay, so brief breakdown of my past 10 months. Now that so before that, I used to live in the Bay Area, right? And 3 years ago, we moved to Texas. We moved to Dallas, Texas, because you want a chance to just live somewhere different than California. I've been in California my whole life. Like you were in Hawaii for a while, so you know what it's like to live somewhere else. So for me to live in Texas, that was really cool, make new friends, live in a new area. Then we wanted to kick it up a notch and say, all right, America in general, it's kind of boring. Let's try all these other places now that we don't need to be physically anywhere to work because I work out of my laptop. So we went to Taiwan for 3 months. I learned Chinese. It was great because I suck at Chinese, so I got better at it. I went to Japan for 2.5 months where I learned Japanese. Japanese is very, very hard, so I already forgot most of it. Then we went to places like Croatia for a month, and then in the meantime, we swung by Paris to go see the Olympics. Now, these are really cool things, and the cool thing about like financial freedom in general is that when you do things like this, it's actually a lot cheaper than you think. Like you would think, oh, going to Paris to the Olympics, you must have spent $20,000 on it.
Yeah.
We didn't. We spent, I think, under $3,000 on our whole trip.
Okay.
Airbnb, flights, the events, under $3,000.
Wow.
And we were there for 5 days. Yeah. But here's the thing. Most people can't do that because they need to fly from America, take PTO. They probably book super bougie suites. They get like really nice tickets. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways to do things a lot cheaper. And especially if you're doing things on the weekdays.
Okay. Like
Disneyland. We can go on a random Disneyland, a day on Disneyland, and there's no lines. It's cheaper there too. So that's the life that we enjoy now. We don't have to worry about crowds and like all that stuff.
No 4th of July traffic.
Exactly. We don't have to worry about the common holidays. Like we just stay home during those days. So that's one thing. Now, the other thing that really kind of impacts me with my whole mind philosophy, we can kind of get into this later when I talk about how my mind's a little bit messed up right now. But while traveling and seeing different cultures and going to different museums and learning history in general, and also reading a lot of books about history, you learn that almost nothing you do as an individual matters.
Yeah.
It's very sad. Like, as an American, I don't know anything about European history. So a lot of stuff happened in like Yugoslavia, for example. I don't know anything about it. The Austrian Empire was a huge deal, but I didn't know any of the emperor's names, empress's names. You probably don't, right?
I can.
But they were huge deals, okay? And if these people who are super big shots back in the day are irrelevant, then what about us?
Yeah.
I'm not like the president, right? I'm not going to be the king of any country. So does it really matter what I do or what other people think of me with how I live my life? It probably doesn't. So I mean, a thing to say is like, because things don't matter as much, I'm able to live my life pretty freely. Like, okay, I don't need to put too much pressure on myself to become the next whatever, because one, I probably won't. Two, even if I do, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, just enjoy your life and think about the things that are really important to you, and then do those things.
So you're in the act right now of what's the next goal?
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like a super first world problem, right? It's not even first world; it's like super first world.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
No, I mean there's levels to the game.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out what the next level is because you hit the first level and you like it, but if there could be one, there could be not another level. It depends, right?
I mean, I think the thing is, I need to find my passion because, again, like my passion for the longest time was get out of a full-time job. I think that's where most people are. Like, they hate their job so much they want to get out of it. If you want to do that, follow me, follow him. We'll teach you how to get there, okay? But the problem is after that. What do you do after that? Yeah.
There's still always something. Okay. So as you're talking about the leaving the full-time job,
Yeah.
would it be fair to say that now you've spent more time actually in the last couple of years with content creators versus real estate investors now?
100%. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I used to host meetups as well.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, I was attending your meetups as well. But then once I moved to Dallas, I didn't really want to go to real estate meetups anymore. It wasn't as exciting because I already knew how to do the basics of it.
Yeah.
So for me, the next challenge was online businesses, content creation. So of course, I started joining those meetups, going to those conferences. And so most of my friends now are 10 years younger than me. They're in their early 20s. So it is kind of weird now that I'm a little bit older. I'm in my mid 30s now and hanging out with these young 20-year-olds. But that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the content creator side, what's been the most interesting change in terms of being a content creator in the last couple of years? Because it's not, I feel like what platforms you're on, how you're posting, the style of posts have changed. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, again, it's hard to say because I even feel like a newer content creator because I only started getting bigger in the last 3 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it since 2019, so it's been about 5 years for me. New things? I don't know. It's because maybe that 3-4 years ago, everyone thought short form content was king. And now they're realizing that short form content has its downsides too.
Mm-hmm.
That, like me, you can blow up a lot, but the followers you have don't translate as well to the things that you have to offer. Whereas if you're doing long form content or even a podcast, people who listen to you truly enjoy your presence if they're going to listen to you for an hour at a time.
Yeah.
And so they're a little bit more loyal to you in terms of things that maybe you have to offer or sell. So, I mean, that's been my strategy. I'm trying to pivot more to long form content.
Okay.
I still have the short form because it's working for me. But I mean, in terms of general strategy, honestly, no one knows what's going on because no one has the keys to the algorithm.
Yeah.
Except maybe Mr. Beast. But, again, for most people, everyone's trying something new all the time. So there's no correct answer for anything.
Who's the biggest content creator that you've met? Have you met Mr. Beast?
I've seen him talk, but I have not met him face to face. I don't know. Who's the biggest? Humphrey's pretty big, right? He has like 3.8 on TikTok and whatever.
Yeah.
I know Humphrey, but I don't know. Yeah.
So obviously, like the content creator world it's this interesting like new wave of celebrity.
Yeah.
What's been the one content creator that you've met and you're like, oh man, do you ever get any starstruck feeling?
I think at the end of the day, I recognize that everyone is just a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't put people on pedestals in general.
Yeah.
Even like celebrities that I really like on screen, I know that at the end of the day, they're still a person too. Like, okay, as far as being starstruck from a celebrity, I did see Keanu Reeves in person and I was like, but I didn't go up and say hi to him or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in terms of if someone's a creator right now, making some money, what's the game plan? What should they actually do to make sure that they don't run out of money? Is it just parking in real estate? Is it parking in stocks? Like, how are you then also just telling these buddies, hey, you need to actually get some...
All right, let's give me a real scenario because there's so many levels to being a content creator and how they run their business or whatever. So
what are the levels? In your mind, what are the levels?
Of course, like there's people who are just starting.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say the follower count because like everyone has different whatever barriers. But if you're kind of just starting, then you definitely need to keep your full-time job because being a content creator will not pay you. Like, for example, even with like 1 million followers, I get like nothing on TikTok. I get like $5 on Instagram. Okay. YouTube, AdSense, between 2,000 and 5,000 a month. Okay. It's not that much. It's the other products you have to sell. So think about like why you're doing the content.
Okay.
Think about, okay, if you don't have something to sell yourself, maybe think about what affiliates or what partners you can like work with, because then you can just pivot them and say, oh, you need insurance company? Oh, go use an insurance company. And when you use them, then you get paid an affiliate fee. So think about what strategic partnerships work well with your brand. I mentioned things having something to sell. That's the big one.
Okay.
And then that's it, right? Like what else?
So the first one is actually establish partnerships and just build relationships with things that you're using right now.
Yeah.
And then obviously you start to have some income.
Like think about your back end basically. Like
Yeah.
think about, are you selling a course? Are you selling a membership? Are you like, I don't know. Are you yourself a real estate agent? Are you yourself a loan officer? And then can you have your audience use you for their services?
Do you have a membership? Like, are you guys on school?
So Sharon and I wanted to do a private membership, but then we got lazy.
Yeah.
And then we figured, if I have to physically show up, even though it gives us a lot of money, then it takes away from my freedom. So I appreciate the fact that I can wake up at 10, 11 a.m. without an alarm clock every day. I can sleep whenever. I don't have to show up anywhere. If someone calls my phone, before as a hard money lender, if I had a missed phone call, I call them back, right? Now, whoever calls me, I always like puts the phone down whenever I want to. So I talk to who I want to. I don't talk to whoever I don't want to. And I really appreciate that freedom. And I think about, if I want the extra money, that's great. What benefit does it give me that I already don't have now? And what sacrifice do I have to make to get it? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I have to work an extra, even if it's an extra 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or not a day, 5 hours a week. If I have to work an extra 5 hours a week for something I don't really need, then why do it? That's where I'm at now. So I don't have a school yet. I might have one when I come back.
Yeah.
But especially when I'm traveling around the world, I don't want to have a meeting here at 5 p.m. PST when it's like nighttime.
Yeah.
Or morning, I don't know, in Japan or something, right?
Whether you're on the financial freedom side or if you're on the, obviously on the growth side, a lot of times when you get shiny objections, and people don't think about that too. If you say, yes, this opportunity came up and I'm going to add 3 hours a week to it, but is that 3 hours a week actually worth it? When then you might even a month from now go, oh, well, I can do this another one for another 3 hours a week. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're just stacking all these extra things that are just distractions.
But that's the thing too. I think there's different phases, right? When you're in the hustling phase, you take everything. I would take everything. If this was 10 years ago, I was still single, I would take everything. But I'm in a different phase of life. And I don't need it. And I don't want as much.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. There's a pretty cool quote I heard on TikTok earlier, but it was basically saying like, you can do anything you want as long as your why is powerful enough. Mm-hmm. And I mean, maybe I'll just paraphrase what happened here. But he was like, okay, he went to this conference and said, who here thinks they can make $1 million a year? And like, no one raised their hand. Maybe like one guy did. And then they said, okay, what if I told you that if you didn't make $1 million by next year, everyone in your family would die? Who would do it? And everyone raised their hand. So like if your why is strong enough, you'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. Like if I wanted to make it happen, I could make it happen, but my why is not strong enough, you know?
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. So no to school, no to community right now.
Yeah. I mean, again, not yet.
Well, at least today, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Courses. How many courses do you have?
I only have one. Well, that's not true. I have one flagship, like one main one, and then I have a bunch of like smaller ones. I'll tell you right now too, I'm also doing it very wrong. It's like a low ticket item. We're not promoting it like crazy.
Okay.
It's just out there.
It's not, I always see a little bit of the other breakdown. It's not a huge significant portion of anything.
It was in 2021, 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you kind of just been like,
Well, I'm real too. Real estate as a whole market isn't as popular as it was 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Totally.
Especially because interest rates are higher. So, and for me as well, like I haven't been buying new properties because I've been gone. So it's kind of hard to push a product saying, oh, here's how you can buy properties when I'm not even doing it right now. Mm-hmm. Or when the market's changed where the information may not be as realistic as it is in today's market, right?
Because you have to like basically reshoot the course to make it more relevant.
I mean, again, the baseline is the same, like how to analyze a deal, how to make a team. That's all the same, right? That's why I didn't have to redo the course or offer refunds or anything. But the examples are like, okay, here's an example of a property for this much money for this interest rate, right? These two numbers are different now.
Yeah, totally.
So that's why I'm not actively promoting it as much as I used to. Okay. And you know, if I was going to be like really smart with how my social media and how I'm making money, then I would create a school, right? I would make a $5,000 or $10,000 product, but I don't. My course is $250.
Yeah, like that's $250.
Sorry, it's $297. It's $300. Okay. But still, it's like nothing, dude. That's an inspection report, right?
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about people buying it because I'm like, dude, you're gonna get your great value. You're gonna learn how to buy a property out of state. $300. It's chill.
It's basically you bought Sean a nice dinner.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, our course is oversaturated today. Can you still break through and can you still actually make it work?
Oh yeah, you can. 100%. If you have something of value, then you can always sell it. I don't see why you couldn't.
How about then moving into the real estate side? So you haven't bought anything for a while. Do you want to buy something coming up in the next couple of years? Are you going to trade anything?
I think right now we're in a very interesting spot too because we bought a lot of properties. We renovate. We usually buy like really messed up properties and we renovate them and then rent them out either long-term or as short-term rentals. So then now is the stabilization period where we realize, okay, property prices are a lot higher, interest rates are a lot higher. So it doesn't really make sense for me to want to buy properties with a loan today. So if the last few properties I bought have been all cash, just, okay, we'll buy it and we'll take our time renovating it. And now we're watching, okay, are there properties that maybe aren't doing as well as we thought? Okay, we can get rid of those. Are there properties that maybe could use some renovations and to boost income or whatever? So we're spending the money that we would have bought new properties into just making our current properties even better, even stronger.
Okay.
Doing the repairs that we've been delaying or deferring. So that's been our strategy for now. And of course, like I love real estate. I should do real estate. So I will want to purchase something. But when you buy properties, at least for me, like, it's a lot of it's an emotional investment sometimes because you buy property and you want to make sure it does well. So since I've been traveling, I don't really want to do the whole like, oh, buy a property remotely, let someone else manage the renovations remotely. Because I think I've pivoted from just buying in bulk, buying like crappier properties, to buying just like more pricier ones, nicer ones, and then make sure that one's like a solid one for long-term growth. Because again, like I mentioned, at this point, I'm not looking for cash flow as much because my cash flow is good. It's more like, all right, what's the appreciation potential? Am I happy? Do I feel proud owning this property? And most importantly now, do I want to visit where that property's at? Because every time you visit a property, that's a tax deduction too.
Yeah.
So these are kind of like the strategic things we're thinking about for our own acquisitions.
I mean, and we're talking about levels a lot, I think, for FIRE, content creation. On the real estate side, yes, you end up, if you're starting out, you're going to buy in a not great neighborhood and it's going to cash flow better. And ideally, over time, it would then appreciate. And then hopefully, as you increase your own income, increase your own amount of just play money, then you can hopefully invest in the areas that are better.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to start, especially if you don't have a lot of money, you kind of have to start off in things that's a little bit more rough.
That's true. But I mean, like, again, when you get to a certain level, then the dream is, I mean, it's kind of weird to say, but the dream is actually just buy 10 properties here in our backyard. If I can own 10 Bay Area properties,
100%.
Like, okay, sometimes it's sad that there's like rent control laws and, people don't like buying in California. But if you own 10 properties here, you can cry with your like $100 bills that, I have, $10 million in properties, but one of them is not being rented out. I mean, whatever. But,
with these meetups, like even for me, right? It's like, okay, there's 12 doors in Columbus. Great. But if you have 12 houses here in the Bay Area, like, that's all my 12 doors combined is one of your houses.
Exactly. Yes.
So very, very different.
And that's kind of where we're pivoting to. Again, we want to be more like prouder of our homes, make them like, really like nicer and stuff with a higher appreciation potential.
Okay.
It's very different when we started 8 years ago. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think the market's different. Obviously, we all grow individually and change in what we're looking at. What about in terms of, okay, you mentioned tax. What's been like your favorite tax deduction hack that like you utilize to this date?
You need to have a business in general so you can make a lot of tax deductions.
Okay, so
lot of tax deductions.
Yes, you have that, but has there been like either a purchase or a conference trip that you've gone to that you're like, yes, like this is...
I mean, okay, sure. I mean, like, because we go to a lot of conferences, every time we travel to a different state for that conference, the flight, the hotel stay, the car, transportation, Ubers, meals, those are all tax write-offs. And if I happen to swing by Disney World while I'm in Orlando, then, that's one day that I'm in Disney World. Yeah. Again, it's nothing like super fancy. Like, I don't do any like super crazy tax strategies.
You're not buying a yacht?
I'm not buying a yacht. I'm not using bonus depreciation, Okay. I'm not doing I mean, I have professional real estate status because we were professional real estate investors, but other than that, it's nothing too crazy.
Yeah, which then helps offset some of the content creation side.
I mean, I would just say, like, again, we have a business for content creation side. We have a business for real estate and personal stuff. And then we write off as much as possible on the business side. That loss translates to our personal through a K1, and then we pay very little taxes, and that's basically it.
Okay, a couple last questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
On the real estate side, who's been the most influential person for you?
Oh, I'm going to shout out to the OGs. So back in the day, in 2016, when I was first starting, there's a lot of real estate investors here in the Bay Area that were very, very supportive of our dreams as young 20-something-year-olds to become real estate investors, even though most people thought it's like most of your family members are doubting you and whatnot. But the people in the real estate meetup groups are very, very nice, very nice. So I was looked up to like the older heads. I used to volunteer for Jeff Pollock's meeting over in San Jose.
Yeah.
Guys like Jason Boozy were big wholesalers and flippers, you know. Arlen Chow, he's a local guy here. And actually for me and my wife personally, we like Arlen a lot. Shout out to Arlen. But he exemplifies what we want it to be because he has a lot of wealth. He has his own business, but he doesn't show it off. Like if you met him, you could not tell at all. So for me and my friends, we always refer to him as our cool uncle, basically who we want to be when we grow up. But yeah, he's a really cool dude. He's like who we want to be when we're older.
Yeah.
We want to exemplify that personality. And even to this day, he does his own remodels for many of his projects because one, it saves a lot of money, but two, it's like therapy for him. He enjoys going there and he teaches his kids the same thing too. So it's very cool.
A nice little hack. You mentioned that you volunteered for these meetups. If someone actually wants to get one step closer, like everyone who hosts a meetup, including myself, will be happy to have you as a volunteer and they get you one step closer to whether it be the speakers, the guest speakers, whoever it is, because you have a seat at the table just because you're helping now.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I started too, right? I realized that I was too shy to swarm the speaker after they're done talking. That happens all the time, right? Someone talks for an hour, they give a great presentation. Then when they come down stage, everyone swarms them, and you have to be like, you know, the one puppy trying to get that last nipple, right, for the milk, and you get squeezed out. They run to the litter. So instead of that, I just said, okay, let me like volunteer and get closer connections with the host. And the host knows the speaker, so you can talk to the speaker. And then even when I did my podcast, I was able to then have the speakers come on my podcast, ask them all my questions, get free consulting, right? So it's a lot.
I mean, yes, that volunteering, and then the other side, if you have a little bit more time and effort, having your own podcast is the easiest way to, especially locally, get people one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to pick their brains, but everyone will be a guest on a podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, this multi-million guy, like, does he really want me to buy him lunch? Probably not. Does he really want to drive another 45 minutes for lunch? Probably not. But can I get him on a Zoom call for an hour? Sure. And then I'm like, yeah, if he's down to talk to a room of 100 people, wouldn't he want to just be on a podcast where like 1,000 people listen? Maybe. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, on the content creation side, who's been most influential for you guys there?
That's hard to say too. I mean, my wife for sure, right? So my wife, Sharon, shout out to Sharon. She's the one that got me into content creation on a bigger scale. I know when I was first getting started, as far as podcasting, I was mostly looking at the Bigger Pockets guys because I loved Bigger Pockets back then, and I wanted my own podcast for the same reason. I talked to Graham Stephan, and he told me, "Hey, podcasts suck. You know, YouTube is better." So I was like, "Okay, podcasts suck. YouTube is better." So that's why I went to YouTube. But I mean, he told me podcasts suck because there's no organic spread. Like, whereas YouTube, they'll show you someone else's video, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a podcast, you're not gonna, I'm gonna listen to some other guy's podcast. It doesn't even happen that way.
No, not at all.
Because most of these guys are my friends, so it's not like I look up to them.
Yeah.
But we draw inspiration from each other.
And you guys just trade notes, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, kind of. Not really, but kind of. Because I'm not like going up to my friends and be like, "Hey, how did you do X, Y, and Z?" But it's more like, I like how he did this thing, and we analyze what he did, and then we'll like simulate, emulate, what they do.
Do you have a favorite like format that you like to do?
For content in general?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a skit style. It's worked well for me, where I just like talk to myself on camera, and then you portray a story or you portray some kind of information, and people can get that from. It's basically like watching a movie, right? You're watching a movie, but you're still learning something.
There's two people.
Versus me like talking to camera directly and telling you, "Hey, do X, Y, Z." I'm having a back and forth between two characters, and where someone does X, Y, Z, and then their life is better off for it.
Yeah.
And it's been working out for me, so go for that.
Okay. And then what about, aside from the ascension of social media, what's been another event that has been the almost catalyst for you to level up to the next level?
Meeting my wife.
Smart guy.
No, but seriously, like I think who your partner is
Yeah.
matters, will change your life significantly. Because if you're with the wrong person for the wrong reasons, like you're gonna have a very bad time. Let me think of some examples that won't get me in trouble here. But okay, for example, I've heard in the past that some people like to get with someone only because of their looks, let's say, but their personality is very terrible, or they are not conducive to what you want to do. Like they're not supportive in your dreams and goals. Then sure, you may have fun for the first few years and then realize that this partner is a leech, or their money habits are different. Like they like to spend a lot where you want to save a lot.
Yeah.
There's going to be conflicts in that. So if you're too busy fighting at home, then how are you going to have the energy to go outside and blossom? So that's one where it's bad. The other one is they're not helping, right? So you do everything, they don't help. They're off doing their own thing. Then yeah, you can still make it happen, but you're busy hustling on your own. And then there's a partnership where it's symbiotic. Like you guys both work together on the same goal, then you get there that much faster. Like you find a true best friend who has the same values and goals as you, and they can skyrocket you to the moon. So, I mean, that's how I felt when I first met my wife. I told her on the first date, I was like, cool. I deleted all my apps after I met her. And then I told her that, and she was like, oh, girls love hearing that stuff. But no, it was true. So I knew she was the one for me. And because of her, we've been able to get to where we are a lot faster.
Okay. I mean, that's obviously the most important part, because you spend the most amount of time with that other person.
Hopefully. I mean, shoot, back when I worked a full-time job, I spent most of my time with my coworkers.
That's actually, okay, yeah.
It's very sad, actually. You spend most of your time with your coworkers, with people you don't like, and then you go home, you see your wife, and you go to sleep. That's it.
I think about that with my kids actually a lot. Because, like, the same thing. I'll go to work, and then they'll go to sleep early, and like, oh, we only had it was a couple hours. And then in a couple hours, how good was that time?
Yeah.
And it is very, very sad.
So that's one of my dreams as a real estate investor. I can go to my kids' games, But I'm just saying, like, from my parents, they didn't go to any of my games. You know? So I felt like, I wish they were there for support.
Yeah.
But now I can do that for my kid when we have one down the line, very far down the line.
Okay, I know that you haven't been pumping out content as much as before, but in the heyday, what was your system to make content?
So actually, I do create content still. It's just I'm not as dedicated to it. I'm still on a similar schedule. Essentially, I like to create content maybe once or twice a month at most. I just film everything, we script everything. But before that, there's a lot of back-end work, right?
Yeah.
So there's a research part. What topics are actually interesting to people in my audience niche? I guess I'll script it out. I'll film it, then send to an editor. He'll send it back to me. And then my old content schedule was 3 times a week. Now that I'm back in the States for a few weeks, I'll be doing 3 times a week as well.
Okay.
So it's three shorts a week, 1 long form video, and then 1 email a week. That's the amount of content we produce.
Okay. And then you're not doing the podcast anymore?
I stopped 3 years ago. So here's the thing about podcasting. For me, again, it was a way for me to get in touch with these heavy hitter real estate investors, talk to them for an hour, and learn all their secrets. But after a while, I wanted to just do a podcast on a once a week basis. And I already interviewed all the top investors here in the Bay Area, so not to go out of state. Or I would ask for these random people to come on my show. But most people who come on your show, like randomly, they are just trying to promote their own things. And so you get a lot of people and you talk to them and you're like, this guy sounds like he's a BSer. So I didn't like talking to people like the 10th wholesaler who has the exact same story. They do the same job, same way. So then I figured, okay, I'm doing all this work, editing, whatnot, and then getting like $500 to $1,000 or 500 to 1,000 listeners per episode. Or I can make a short and get 1 million views. So the short form content side word that went out. And I don't have to schedule too with anyone else. I just do it myself. So
that is something that I've been thinking about recently too. Is just the podcasts are a lot of work. Doing what it is and finding guests who are interesting, entertaining,
and real,
but then can also like talk about it in a succinct way. It is very hard to talk about something that is relatable and succinct. And so it's like the podcast vetting process is tough.
Yeah, especially if you're on a schedule once a week, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not that consistent. Maybe that's my problem, but
Oh, okay. Well, what's your podcast like right now?
it's probably like 2 or 3 a month. So it's almost
Well,
every week.
That's not too bad still.
Yeah.
But again, like, I mean, you have nothing going on with like the local thing, but I was interviewing online too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in the real estate space are a little bit older and they're not as tech savvy. So I would spend like 30 minutes just getting them set up. Like, hey, oh, your microphone doesn't work. Oh, your Bluetooth isn't connected. You know, like troubleshooting their stuff. At least here in the studio, you have all the equipment set up, so it's very easy.
Yeah.
But then that's too, like, oh, you had to meet me in the parking lot, right? You have to coordinate this and that, and it takes up an hour of your day where maybe you want to go out for a long lunch, you know? Like, you can't do that when you have a podcast or something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pros and cons, right?
But again, on the growth phase, you know, my goal, hopefully, you know, I get to I don't need to do a podcast anymore. But yes, I still want to do some big deals, and the podcast is the easiest way to get yourself at the table with the big deals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to keep this part in, but do you have a back end for the podcast?
A back end?
Yes. For example, when I was doing my podcast, it was to promote leads from hard money loans.
Yeah.
And it did very, very well.
Yeah.
You don't do loans. So
I know.
maybe it's LP, raising money, right?
That's been really helpful. But technically, we've only done one deal that's a 506c that I can actually like really actively say, hey, we're raising for an assisted living right now in Fresno. And then actually have put that out there. Yeah. Everything else has been a B, so I can't actually really promote.
No. You don't use a podcast to promote the deal. You use a podcast for them to like you. And then you say, oh, do you want to be an LP in our deals? And you give my email list, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. But like you can't, it's very gray.
Can you just say, I have deals? You just don't say what deal.
Yeah. I do have like, if you ever want to partner with us, just like complete a form and like we'll just do a Zoom call and it's not raising for a specific thing. Totally.
Yeah. But that's the thing too. If you want to do that, then you should be a multifamily podcaster or assisted living podcaster, not interviewing me, a content creator.
I know, but much like you, it's at first you think about, okay, I only want a podcast about bird deals and Airbnb, and I did that a lot. Okay, and then MTRs, cool. And you feel those episodes, and you do a few of your own projects, and like,
I'm bored of talking about MTRs and STRs, yeah?
Yeah, like there's almost so much I talk about price labs and hospitable.
The exact same conversation 10 times in a row.
There's not that many like finance influencers in real estate that I know.
And have you talked to Elisa yet?
I have her. Actually, I have her. We keep missing dates. Schedule.
Got it.
But yes, it's interesting. You know,
she's doing really well.
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah, and obviously her project's really well too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for her. Like the back end for her, obviously, is either private lending or deal flow.
Is it? I mean, it's deal flow. I don't think she does private lending.
Oh well, like she wants more private lenders.
Does she? Does she?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
I'll have to ask her.
So.
I mean, it's on her website at least.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, does she actually really need it? Probably not. But it's probably deal flow, and now she has the course and mastermind that she's doing now too.
Yep.
And honestly, for me, with the day job, and they know that I have all these side hustles too, it's already been documented. Yeah, like part of it is, cool, could I grow the marketing agency side? Or could it be more deal flow? But I'm at a point where I do need to pick one of those. And I haven't been doing a good job of it.
Yeah. You're straddled right now.
Yeah. And so it's like, I've gotten into deals, I've gotten clients, but I should really just like for the next year, just pick one and just do it.
Well, especially, and I'll say it off camera, but yeah, like if you.
No, say it, go ahead.
Okay, well, you cut it out. Especially if you're going to leave your job in the next few months.
I mean, it's funny, right? Because I feel like the last episode has all just been about like, here's how I left my job in whatever, yada, yada, yada. Right, here's I don't ever have to work again. That was almost one of the first questions I asked you on this one, because that's what's on the back of my mind. But that's on the back of everybody's mind, no matter what.
You know what I would say the most surprising thing is how much you will not miss your salary. I think that's very surprising to most people, because like when you have a job, you're like, oh, like, how can I live without this money? Like, oh, I expect this every single month. And then when you don't have it, you're like, okay, like I just make do with less.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I need insurance. How am I gonna live without insurance? Like, dude, insurance is not that much. It might be for you because you have family, but it's not for me and my wife.
Well, I mean, so thinking about that and like the leaving side, like my wife is not going to leave. Like I would be the one to go first.
That's right. She's the piggy bank.
And then we would also use her insurance.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I work in wine, not in tech. So my salary is also not as much. I guess the thing is that we've bought a few things recently, and I would need to stop buying things and parking all that cash in order to then have the reserves. But, you know, if I keep doing more deals, then...
But I mean, what are you buying? You're buying assets, right?
Yeah.
Then that's not a problem.
I know.
And also, like, you feel bad. Oh, I can't buy 10 deals this year. But you know, you'll
I
be
know.
fine.
But like for example, it's like you know, like we close on like a new build A-frame, and I want to have some reserves for that. And then, you know, we want to raise for this deal. And if I'm thinking about, okay, like what's next? The other one's like, at least for me on the real estate side, is do I want to trade some of our Columbus homes and then just consolidate it to maybe like a 10, 15 unit apartment complex? Like I'm going to want some extra reserves. But if I cut the salary, which is, you know, at least for me at this point, 50% of my income now versus the other side, then maybe I'm not trading it next year, but I'm trading it in 18 months.
Mm-hmm. But then they also think about, if you didn't have to work a full-time job, how much more productive could you be on the business side?
I know.
How much more money could you make if you didn't? But here's another thing that you may not realize. Once you don't have to do something, you might get very lazy and you think, oh, I get an extra 8 hours a day. In reality, it might be an extra 1 or 2 hours because you'll spend the other 6 hours like chilling.
I get it. No, I mean, so for me, it's, I think the fastest growth is at least just on the marketing agency side, because I can scale that and not have to, if I can make the same amount of money but only work 10 hours a week versus what I work now, then once I get that, and probably at least like 1.5 times my salary on the marketing side, then I'll just be like, cool. So, I don't know. Fun little next steps, you know?
Exactly. But you won't regret it. I mean, unless you really like your job. For me, I did not like my job, so I didn't regret it when I left.
Nobody actually wants to work at the end of the day.
Well, that's actually not true. I did have a call with one of my old friends, and he was like, yeah, I'm actually really killing it in the W2 space. I like it a lot. And he's like, in the very beginning, maybe for the first 10 years or so, he didn't like it because he was kind of being told what to do. But now he's in a position where he's like the boss. So he gets to kind of determine the projects or have talks with the high-level, you know, CEOs or whatever, C-level officers. So he feels important, and he feels like what they make is important. So there's people like that out there.
But you ask him, say he doesn't need the money, would he still do the same thing or would it be different?
Probably work less hours.
But if that's tied to the job, then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
I've quit my job a couple times to do some random fitness clothing brand, started across a gym, slept on couches. Mm-hmm. Obviously, those didn't all take off, and granted, were they the right vehicle? Probably not. The gym doesn't make that much money. Neither does selling t-shirts.
Well, I mean, here's my example again. Like, I quit my job as an engineer because I wanted to be a full-time real estate investor. It didn't work out for me, even though I had success in the past. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to quit my job and do real estate investing. Right? Yeah. But then other opportunities found itself. Because I did the podcast, because I was already promoting hard money lending, I got a job as a hard money lender. And then I worked that job, you know, I put in a lot of effort for that one. Yeah. Until a point where I didn't need the money anymore again. So that's, you know, everyone has different phases of life, and you make your own decision. And
appreciate you jumping on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
How can people find you?
At Sean Loves Real Estate on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
Obviously, I will leave that linked down below in the description. And if you enjoy this, make sure to share this with someone who also wants to quit their job.
Or get into content creation, or into real estate investing.
I guess that's like the reason why for everything, right? But appreciate it, man. Mike, cheers.
Cheers.